Welcome to Mount Pulaski High School Veterans Day Assembly. At this time, I would like everyone to rise as members of Mount Pulaski American Legion Post 447 presents our nation's colors.
Color guard, forward, march. Right turn, march. Left turn, march. Mark time, march. Color guard, hold. Right, Haynes. Post the color. Color guard, present, arm. Order, arm. Port, arm. Left, hey. Forward, march. Left turn, march. Left turn, march.
At this time, let's join Colin Tyson and Keaton Matson for our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and facing the colors. Mount Pulaski High School and Junior High bands, National Anthem. Let us welcome Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Fred Lamke. You may be seated.
Good morning, veterans, members of the Armed Forces, board members, students, staff, and friends of Mount Pulaski. I welcome you to Mount Pulaski's USD 23's Veterans Day celebration. Today we come together to honor our veterans and service people and say thank you for their service. Thank you for their dedication, thank you for their commitment, and thank you for their sacrifice. This has long been an important day to me as an educator. It has also been a misunderstood holiday, and in fact, the students may not be cognizant of the importance of this holiday, as oftentimes we spend this at home by ourselves. I have favored the idea of students being in school to learn what Veterans Day really means, how to honor the men and women of our armed forces, and how to learn to respect our veterans and active service people for their commitment and sacrifices. This ceremony was designed by our staff that does just that. Today we have a special program involving students, staff, and veterans. It was created to honor these special men and women. Now I'd like to introduce to you our very special person, our keynote speaker, retired Colonel Stanley Haynes. He is a native of Mount Pulaski, graduated in 1983. He is a graduate of the University of Illinois with a degree in political science in 1988. And he's married to his wife, which is always a good thing, Andrea, and he has one child, Cooper, and they reside in Sherman. Colonel Haynes enlisted as an infantryman in the National Guard in 1994. He competed at Officer Candidate School and was a commissioned officer as a second lieutenant in the infantry, serving as the platoon leader to battalion commander of infantry formations. He retired in 2020 as a commander of the Area Escort Group in Poland. In his retirement services, he is a Deputy G9 for the National Guard. He's also served as a Deputy Chief in Germany, Bilateral Affairs Officer in Poland, as well as many other positions. Some of the many awards and honors and decorations that he has earned: Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star, the Joint Meritorious Service Award, and the Meritorious Service Award. So ladies and gentlemen, would you please give me a big round of applause for Mount Pulaski's very own Colonel Lieutenant Stan Haynes.
Well, thank you for that very kind introduction. It's funny coming back to Mount Pulaski. As you mentioned, I was born and raised here. Sat in these same bleachers on many occasions when I was in school here, and this is a true homecoming to me. Thank you to the band. It's fabulous to hear you guys and gals doing your thing. Love it, and as he said, thanks for all the folks who came out to be with us today. Also, special thanks to Honor Guard provided by the Rhine Feet Post 447, American Legion, and the Sons of American Legion. Gentlemen, thank you. And I know you guys haven't had much of a chance, but over there at the table, there's some World War I and World War II memorabilia artifacts from the Illinois State Military Museum down in Springfield. So thanks for Stan and Paul for bringing that stuff out here. As I said, I'm very, very humbled to be here. Awards, decorations, all that means that I spent a long time in the military and lived to see the end of my career, which so many of our brothers and sisters did not have the opportunity to do. So, as Mr. Lampy said, why are we here? What is the purpose of Veterans Day? Why we assembled to celebrate this day? I'm going to try to explain through my lens and some of the experiences I've had throughout my career. But first, because I know you guys all love history, we're going to go through a little history lesson here, because it's very important in our nation's history to understand exactly where we came from. So, 1918, the world is suffering through the First World War. And the United States entered in 1917, and at that point in time, it was decided that the Axis armies led by Germany could not continue the fight, and sued for peace in what became known as the Armistice, which took effect the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month, 1918, forever known as Armistice Day. So in 1919, all World War I vets came together and they said, well, we need to remember our brothers and sisters who fell in service to our country. So Armistice Day, also known as Remembrance Day, was formed in 1919. Obviously, as we know, the armistice did not last. And some, short 20-some years later, when Germany broke the armistice and once again advanced and attacked into Poland to begin the Second World War. So after the Second World War's conclusion, it was determined that while we were still celebrating Armistice Day and Remembrance Day in honor of World War I veterans, we needed a day to celebrate all veterans of all of the wars. So at that time, in the 1950s, President Eisenhower passed into law a new name and a change of the name to Veterans Day. So that's why we are now known as Veterans Day. Currently, there are over 19 million veterans out of the 334 million U.S. citizens in the country. I would like to specifically point out that there are 240,000 remaining World War II veterans. Pretty amazing what those men and women went through to save the world in what was the greatest military effort of all time. Out of 16 million, however, there are only 240,000 remaining. So I ask that everybody here remember our veterans of the Great Wars, and if you know somebody, thank them for their service, and thank them for the debt that we owe for saving freedom for the entire world. Veterans Day, Ken, is for me, and I'm sorry I don't like to stand too close to a podium, but I think everybody can still hear me. Veterans Day has always been a really, really cool day for me. My dad was a history teacher in this school, so it just kind of, I played on, I watched the vets do their thing on Veterans Day all the time, and I always kind of wanted to be like them. But very special for me was the presidential wreath laying ceremonies, which I invite all of you, when you get out of school today, to go check out the news and watch the President of the United States, President Biden, present a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. I had an opportunity once as a young officer to be in D.C. and to participate in those ceremonies, and to actually attend on November 11th the presidential wreath laying ceremony. It is an amazing, amazing event. Just one other quick highlight of mine. In 2016, I was serving in Germany at the European Command headquarters, and had the opportunity to travel to France on Veterans Day. The people of France still remember. To this day, they thank Americans, they thank the British, they thank all of us for saving their country from the Germans in 18, and then again in the 40s. But I had the chance to go to the Meuse-Argonne American Cemetery, just west of Verdun, and see the thousands of gravestones of young men, not much older than some of you in here, who paid the ultimate sacrifice in defense of freedom and liberty across the world. And then went to another ceremony, and actually was there in a little itty-bitty farm village called Montfaucon, where there was a massive battle that the 4th Infantry Division ended up victorious in 1918. But they registered 11th hour, 11th day, 11th month, and I tell you folks, it was chilling. And the outpouring of support and emotion from the French people to me, this young guy who happened to be in uniform, was nothing short than fantastic. As many of you may know, there's also other special occasions that we commemorate Veterans Day. Sometimes we see it on Veteran or Memorial Day as well. But the poppies. Has anybody ever seen the little red flowers that, Legionnaires and VFW members are out selling? They collect money from veterans organizations. Let me just share with you where that poppy tradition came from. And I read, in Flanders Field. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard, amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. John McCrae, Canadian Army doctor, wrote that poem following the death of his friend, Lieutenant Alexis Homer, who was killed in action on May 2nd, 1915. But it's a vivid reminder of the loss of war and the sacrifices that are paid. Flanders Fields is a major battle scene across the Western Front throughout most of World War I, repeated in some of the same locations in World War II. And the poppy itself is a symbol of remembrance and hope, including for hope for a positive future and a peaceful world. Thus, the poppy is still popular throughout Europe. You all see different varieties of them, and I brought a prop, as all your speech teachers will tell you. Bring props, and I forgot it in my bag. Anyway, I can show you later. But they're various sizes and shapes and forms, but Remembrance Day is still celebrated to this day in Great Britain, in France, in Canada, Australia, Poland, and many of the other Eastern countries. So, as I said, born and raised in Mount Pulaski, deep appreciation for our heritage and our roots. Some know that my great-great-grandfather, Mr. Javis Capps, was one of the principal founders of this town. And the founders, when they formulated this city, as it were, they decided to name it after the Polish War veteran, hero of the Revolutionary War, Kazimierz Pulaski. Anybody know who Kazimierz Pulaski is? A little bit, kind of. Good, nobody knows who he is, so I'm going to tell you all about him. So, why was this Polish war hero in America? Why wasn't he over in Poland? Well, as a matter of fact, he was exiled from Poland. He and another officer by the name of Claudiusz Kosciuszko, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, it's kind of hard to say, but they came to America because they were both exiled for revolutionary action against the Russian government, who was controlling the magnates who ran the country of Poland at that time. See, Poland had a very loose monarchical system that was really divided between 16 major families. An entire country, 16 families controlled, and those families were being bought off by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Prussians, which is now Germany, were paying them off. So Poland became very disenfranchised. All across the European plains to Europe, I'm sorry, from France to England, as we're fighting against the monarch, all across Europe was a fervor for freedom. We talk about slavery and some of our horrid past we have in our country, and we are without a doubt not without national sin, an original sin. However, this was a plight that was rampant, that the Polish people, the Europeans in general, the French people, the British, and you saw the French Revolution where they got rid of the monarch after the American Revolution. At the same time, the enslaved peoples of the Republic of Poland rose up and they started fighting back. All the way to the point that one day the Russians, the Austrians, and the Germans got together and said, no more Poland. No more. Because they're a thorn in our side. These people are crazy. They keep fighting us. And we can't deal with that. So, Claudiusz Kosciuszko, the other gentleman that I mentioned, he goes back to Poland after the Revolutionary War. By the way, Kosciuszko is the guy who built West Point, so kind of an important thing in the United States Army. He built fortifications there and helped us win in the Northern Campaign. At any rate, Poland doesn't exist for 135 years. And it wasn't until Armistice Day, November 11th, 1918, did Poland arrive back on the maps of the world. So today is also Polish Independence Day. So anybody of Polish heritage, it's a wonderful day in their history as well. So, I spent a lot of time in Poland. I don't know if anybody knows that or not, but kind of had a little bit of the Russian Federation, formerly the Soviet Union. And I can tell you from battlefields from Afghanistan to seeing Poland as a former Soviet bloc nation, I can tell you from my experiences exactly what socialism and the effects of a dictatorial, authoritarian regime can do to freedom, because there isn't any. So as we move forward and continue to think about veterans and what it means to be a veteran, I want to share a couple of things too. There's no greater fear for any of us as veterans, especially those who are lost, to be forgotten. the greatest sadness is to be forgotten. That you know, while we see the events in Afghanistan unfold, most of us are not real happy about it. It is the natural course of human history that you will have ebbs and flows, and victories in war and victories in peace. But at the end of the day, all of my colleagues, all of my friends, we want peace. And we want people to be free, for young ladies to go to school that when I was in Afghanistan, they never had that opportunity. You know, the freedom that we bought by the bloodshed of people like J.P. White, who I carry with me almost every day. And I wore his dog tags with me as a kind of a reminder that J.P., the son of Jimmy and Robin White, formerly of Mount Pulaski, 18 years old, was killed in Afghanistan in an RPG attack. J.P. never got to live those freedoms. He gave his life so that you will have the opportunities that you'll have in front of you going forward. So we don't ever forget, and that is why I'm glad to see so many of you in this crowd today. So we remember. We're celebrating veterans, but none of these veterans you see in front of me, me included, we honor the dead. We honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice first and foremost. So let me break with that a little bit, and I just want to check the times here, make sure we're good. Sorry, we still got a little more time, so I get to keep talking. It's awesome. So what is it to be a veteran? I'll just shift it that way. I'm going to talk about the Army values, and I'm sorry for my Air Force and Navy brothers and the Marines out there in the world that may disagree with the Army being the best branch of service. But at the end of the day, we're all pretty much the same. We just wear a different uniform. But the Army values are something that we strive to be, and you learn this very early on. From the first day in basic training, when they take you in and cut all your hair off and basically transform you overnight, right? Yeah, it doesn't always work that way. It's a hard, rough road. But we talk about certain values that we adhere to in the United States military. We talk about loyalty. And, you know, the loyalty that makes a team great. You know, I'm standing in the halls of Mount Pulaski High School, where we've seen over the years great basketball teams, great volleyball teams, great wrestling programs, state championship level track, wrestling, I mean, excellence. And most recently, congratulations to the baseball team. That is awesome. So proud of you guys and gals for everything you do. But you're loyal to your team. And that's the same thing we strive to do in the military. And I think a lot of those traits that have made me successful in the military, I learned right here, right in the same seats that you are all sitting in right now. We talk about duty. Fulfill your duty. You know, you have a job to do. Do it. Respect. I can tell you from basic training with every race and ethnicity you could imagine thrown together to where within the first 4 months of our Army existence, we turned into a bunch of green people. We were just Army green, because it didn't matter. From small town central Illinois to inner city kids to Western ranchers, we're all thrown together, and we're all just Americans. And we all messed up, just like Americans. We were all beat down, just like the young Americans that we strove to be, to the point where we came out, and they actually then allowed us to be called a soldier. So that respect and tolerance is learned very early on. And then you travel the world, you know, from Afghanistan to Jordan to Korea. I've seen so many different cultures, and if you do not have respect for other people's cultures, you will not succeed in life, because everybody is different. And we have to understand and do our best to make sure that we appreciate. You know, we hear all of these things about Islam, and you know, in Afghanistan, a quick story. I'll never forget it. I'm in a police district center in Kabul, Afghanistan, and I'm talking to the police chief through an interpreter. I haven't noticed he had a Christmas tree on his desk. Like, that's kind of odd. Not a lot of Christians here in Afghanistan. It's a very, very devout Muslim country. And then his phone rang, and it was Jingle Bells. He had Jingle Bells ringtone on his phone. I'm just like, oh, all right, what's the deal? But it helped us break down through a barrier that, you know, from an Afghan National Police chief to an Army major. What am I doing in his country? What am I there to do to help them? And he just said he loves Christmas. He loves the theory and what Christmas stands for, and was tolerant of our Christian values as we were tolerant of his Muslim values. Another tenet of Army values, selfless service. I'm not talking selfie service here, folks. It's selfless service. Put the people next to you, to your left or right, in front of your own self-interests. That's what it's all about. You will talk to anybody who's been in combat. You don't have many opportunities if you're not there for your buddy on your right and on your left. At the end of the day, morals are what they are. We go fight to do what we're going to do. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to fighting and surviving as a team. All right, so I didn't choreograph my speech very well, but we are up at a time that cannot be broken. So I'm going to ask everybody to please rise. And I would like for us to observe a moment of silence, played or followed by the playing of taps in remembrance to our fallen comrades. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. So, as I continue, just to wrap up what it felt like, or what it feels like for me as a veteran, some of those values is exactly what we strive every day to teach. As we move forward in the program, I just want to throw out a couple of other anecdotes here, and we still have another presentation to get to. So I don't want to steal all the time of the program. But I just want to read this thing I pulled off the internet about a certain bomber squadron and a B-24 gunner who was the guy sitting in the gun protecting the bombing ship, the B-22 or B-24, was shot down over the city of Poppies, Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic, as we now know them, on the 17th of December, 1944. People of the city of Poppies placed a memorial in the park in memory of the 6 people that perished that day in that horrible crash. But this tech sergeant, or staff sergeant, that I'm speaking of right now, is the great uncle of Coach Diver. He was 24 years old and died as a staff sergeant aboard that gunner ship, that B-24. Thomas Edward Diver, always known in Mount Pulaski as Tommy Diver. And I don't want to go too far into the Medal of Honor citation that I would love to read from a from a young man, 18 years of age, who died in Vietnam, earning the Medal of Honor. And to read through this and to think, again, not much older than some of you folks right in here to this day, but Robert Byrd, a beautiful young man, is a United States Marine, who is the older brother of Phyllis Becky. Julie May, or Dorothy, I'm sorry, Dorothy Mason, also lost a brother during the Korean War. War is horrible, people. We never, ever want to fight again, because it ends in tragedy for so many people around us. So I ask in closing for you to think of those people, to think of those families, to think of J.P. White, who should be starting a family right now and continuing on with his life, but due to his service to his country, he's not able to do so. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you today, and I'll turn it back over to Micheline. Thank you so much, and God bless America.
Pulaski has so many stories, and today, Mr. Haynes was able to tell you a few of them, but there's so many more stories of our families, and so many more stories of people that have been directly involved in protecting our nation, serving in our armed forces. And there's so many families, stories in our families and our friends of losses we've had and sacrifices we've made. These are things that we do not want to forget, as not just as a school, but as a community, as a state, as a country. These are things that we need to value, we need to understand the importance of Veterans Day. Things that we do to try and continue this. I know Mrs. Furkey, since she was hired as principal, has been working very hard on reestablishing the Veterans Wall that once stood in the school building. The final proofs have been approved, it should be in production, and hopefully in a short fashion, sometime just before, just after Christmas, they'll be displayed at our western entrance where everybody comes in for our events at Mount Pulaski. And it will list every service person that served for Mount Pulaski. And it's going to be quite exciting, and I think you guys will enjoy seeing that. Moving on, in our English classes at the high school, students were asked to create an original piece focused on Veterans Day. After researching, editing, writing a final copy, students submitted their work, and it was judged by the assembly committee. A winner from each grade was chosen from the pool of talented students. We'd like to thank the winners from each class to please stand up and be recognized as I call your name. And I will tell you, I had the opportunity of reading these as well. And I was very impressed with the thought and the depth in what was being written. So many times I see veterans, and we thank our veterans for their work and what they've done. But several of the papers that I read went even deeper than that, and talking about how we need to do more to support our veterans and how they don't always receive the respect they deserve. And I thought it was great thought that was put into these writings, and I applaud all the students who were involved in it. Our winners from the freshman class, James Steiner. Please stand up, James. James Steiner. From the sophomore class, from the junior class, Walker Allen. And from the senior class, Aiden Schneider. Thank you, Mrs. Sullivan, Mrs. Fuller, and all the students who participated in this worthy educational experience. In addition, we had several students submit essays and audio recordings to our local VFW in support of a national contest, America, Where Do We Go From Here? We would like the following students to please stand and be recognized for their efforts. Please remain standing and hold your applause until all names have been read. Kirsten Lindsay. Deacon Vineyard. Tanner Bishop. Landon Smith.
Hayden Schneider, and Colin Tyson. Big round of applause. The winner from our area will be announced next Thursday, November 18th. At this time, I would like to invite Hayden Schneider to read his entry for the contest. Hayden?
I was going to come over here and talk for like 45 minutes, but they cut me off in 6 minutes, so it won't take as long. Sorry, man. I better put my glasses, because if I don't, I'm liable to not read this, and I'll go on a tangent about basketball. There's never been a time in the history of the United States, except during the time of Lincoln and the Confederates, where this country has been so divided. Nationalism is frowned upon, parts of our history are being ripped to shreds, and the media only shows one-sided narratives, leaving me to wonder one big question. Where will this great nation go from here? The United States is creeping towards an extreme dependency on other countries and is possessing a lack of pride that is beyond frightening. Our personal freedoms are slowly being pulled away. The media shuns its responsibility of unbiased reporting, instead producing mass confusion and strife amongst its citizens, with the sole desire of getting more clicks and revenue. Even though our country remains a center for freedom and hope, we cannot sustain in this position if this nation continues to travel down the path it is currently on. In order to prepare this nation's sense of pride and nationalism, the next generation, our generation, needs to understand the importance of American freedom and how it is the greatest on earth. Before I offer solutions, it is crucial that people understand that if this great nation cannot define its nationalistic pride, the love for one's country that this nation has forever been known for, then the United States will forever be lost as a beacon of hope and prosperity. If the Union goes this route, then everything all veterans since the Revolutionary War fought for will be in vain. This direction will bring little advancement in the way of global democracies and freedom, and the American spirit will be drowned out by other ideologies, such as communism or authoritarianism. Unless the youth of our country stand up, we are doomed to continue down this path, and it frightens those who love this country. The good news is, the Union's pride is not completely destined to crash and burn. Several different routes exist that this nation can take, which will reinvigorate, restore, and recharge the American people. With the next generation of freedom fighters coming up, our nation's spirit can be salvaged and reinvigorated. It is going to take leaders stepping up and running for office. It is going to take more than a few voicing their opinions. It is going to take educating people on how each individual makes a difference in the collective whole. This revival of our spirit will not happen overnight, nor will it happen in the next year. But once this process of restoration begins, there's no telling where it'll end. Senator Robert Kennedy, in his speech to the young citizens of South Africa on their Day of Affirmation, spoke of hope for the future and said this, and I quote, "Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lots of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. In crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. We, the people, must be that ripple of hope." How do we create this ripple? By stepping up and voicing love for this country, a desire for homegrown manufacturing and independence will start to manifest. New jobs can be created in lower income communities, and money can be put back into the pockets of the working class. This increase in products will also help to ease the pain of inflation that will surely come with an increase in minimum wage. More jobs, more money to the people, more products being produced is the recipe for a booming economy and a happy nation. Increasing our pride will also help to heal the split that is ever so present within the United States. The best way to begin this process is to start implementing nationalism in different areas of our lives. Educators need to teach more about why American freedom is the greatest on earth. Parents need to inform their children about how lucky they are for being born in this country. And the American population needs to offer more thank yous to our veterans. Too many people take our freedom for granted, and it is too easy to forget how fortunate we are in the United States. The majority of the population does not take the time to realize why we have that freedom in the first place. However, with more information from home and school, we can overcome that barrier of ignorance. The importance of freedom must be expressed in the United States everywhere, every day. From protesters demonstrating their freedom of assembly, to media outlets using their freedom of the press, the exercise of these freedoms must not be overlooked or ignored. But how do we ensure that these freedoms are not overlooked? Well, to begin, our citizens must stop to think about the veterans who afforded us that freedom. Veterans Day is the perfect time to start the process of revitalization of our nationalism and recognize those who have fought and died for this country. In 1989, while giving his farewell address, former President Ronald Reagan said, and I quote, "Younger parents aren't sure that an unambivalent appreciation of America is the right thing to teach modern children. And as for those who create the popular culture, well-grounded patriotism is no longer the style. We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare. It's fragile and it needs protection." End quote. By following the path our nation's veterans have laid before us, by preaching the importance of freedom at home and in the classroom, this nation's pride can return to stride. When future generations reflect on this time period, may they do so and learn about the great revival of this beautiful country's patriotism. The responsibility for this positive revival starts with our generation, and our revival starts today. Thank you.
As the members of Post 447 remove our colors.
Color guard, forward, march. Right turn, march. Left turn, march. March time, march. Color guard, halt. Right, hey. Retire the colors. Left, hey. Forward, march. Left turn, march. Left turn, march.